yes, there is a push here in Australia, but there has been since about the mid 80s to ban a lot of these products, especially the homeopathy stuff. So watch this space. It'll only get worse as big pharma and try to push it out.
Yeah, you can see what they do with the whole natural thing. They try to make things more artificial, so it's not surprising at all. But
yeah.
what we'll do now, just to make up for time, is we'll go into the global economy update. This is the point that I've actually been looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the most. I said last week it wouldn't be a global economy update if we didn't have the World Economic Forum. So going to say that again, wouldn't be a global update if we didn't have the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab. So last week we had Davos week, which basically, for those who don't know what it is, it's where the elite come together through a series of meetings and decide or put ideas through what will happen for next for the world. And pretty much, as we all expected, there seemed to be quite a few interesting ideas put forward. And I'm going to ask your take on them one by one, Stephen. I can already see you're having a good laugh at some of them, but just to give your thoughts on them one by one. So the first point we'll go through is, which came out of this Davos week, was Klaus Schwab has told the world his preferred government model is China. So we all know the world's kind of heading to a one world government. That's obviously the plan, as we spoke about previously in other updates. So if this does play out and Klaus Schwab gets what he wants in terms of his preferred government model, what would it actually look like for the globe?
Just take how the Chinese government works and apply that globally. It'll be a one-party system with a couple of factions. Basically, if you're either in the club or you're out of the club, and if you're out of the club, you're going to be on home arrest, sitting on big blocks of ice. And
yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, but what's everyone else's take on the whole what Klaus Schwab announced? Oh, you're back, Stephen. Yeah, we just lost you for a second.
Yeah, there's a big storm coming through. That good old first world technology that we have. Yeah. What was I saying? So basically, the left never, or the, and these guys are worse than the left. These guys are real communist socialists. They're going to make Stalin look like Boy Scout. And Stalin killed 200 million people. These guys want to kill billions of people, right? So but they never ever hide what they're actually going to do. Never. It's just people are so dumb that they never go and do their own investigation. So the WEF from the beginning has been telling us what they're going to do. Like if you go right back and search on stuff on the WEF, right back into the early 2000s, they're telling you exactly what they're going to do. And mind you, the World Economic Forum is set up as a foundation in Switzerland that pays no tax. So they're talking about got to tax everyone, but they don't pay tax themselves. Right. Do as I say, not as I do. And they never, ever not tell you what they're going to do. It's just 99% of people are that fucking stupid that they never see it right in front of them. And that's why when this happens and they lose, and the people really wake up, people aren't awake yet. Nowhere near are people awake. We've still got 90% of people who are just absolute sheep to the government. But when they do finally wake up, one, they would have lost a shitload, especially freedoms and rights and all that other crap. And opportunity. Opportunity is the biggest one that most people are going to lose, right? Because that's what they'll take. When you take opportunity and hope away from someone, people get compliant really quickly because they don't think that there's anything to live for. So where was I? Yeah, so the World Economic Forum, we know that China is what he wants. that style, one party, one person, president for life type emperor, basically an emperor, and then all my subjects do everything, below me. That's exactly what he wants.
Yeah, it would be a scary time if that did happen, because obviously China, we all know what that's like. It's already got social credits. It's got ridiculous confinement. And even during the lockdowns, they were some of the craziest, like cracking down on people and controlling. So if that's carried across to the whole world, I don't know. It's just going to be ridiculous. So just to move forward, though, we'll go to the next point. So out of Davos week, the next point, the second point that came out of this was millionaires are supposedly wanting to be taxed more, according to an open letter by Oxfam, which is a charitable organization. So how do you actually think they came to this conclusion? Do you think it was just poured out of their ass, or did it come from an actual genuine source?
No, it come from a genuine source. I've actually seen the letter that Oxfam wrote, and then the signatures attached to it, and it's all the who's who of the WEF millionaire class. Meanwhile, all these guys are happy to sign those type of things because they know nothing will ever affect them. Right?
That's true.
And because most of these guys have their wealth stashed anyway. They're in the inner circle, they're in the inner club, so they'll get looked after because they're nice and compliant and they do whatever. The thing that really annoys me is when you have a look at it, there is a lot of entrepreneurs on that list, and in the US, what we'll talk about in another point, that have already made all their money, right? They've made their money, they've got their toys. Most of them feel so guilty because they've made their money, they've trod on everyone on the way up, they've raped and pillaged, and it's one of the things that we're going to be talking about in the GWMP session tonight is there's got to be a sacrifice to be in the top 1%. And it's what most of these guys know what their sacrifice is. And they know that they can't move away from it. They've sold their soul to the devil, and it doesn't matter now where they are, what they're doing, how it happens is the devil's got their soul and he is going to run with it. Right. And they have no choice. So that's the biggest thing. And they will now make sure that everyone coming behind them can't get ahead of them on the ladder. That's pretty much what it's about. They're all trying to make sure that they stay in the top 1%. So you, me, everyone else can't get ahead of them on the ladder. So they'll burn the ladder below them.
Yeah. What about millionaires who are not in the inner circle, but they're just average straight Americans trying to do business or something like that? Do you think they'd want to be taxed more, like with their signature be on it, or is it only the millionaires who are actually in the inner circle?
No, not at all. This is only inner circle type people. And most of them have become millionaires and that because of rent seeking and basically the handouts they've gotten from government. The one that comes to mind a lot is Theresa Rain and Kevin Rudd, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. How do you go into politics broke and then have a business, your partner has a business, and then all of a sudden you're very, very rich? It shouldn't be the other way around. If there's no corruption, shouldn't it be that you're not going to be multimillionaires by the time you leave politics or by the time you finish getting handouts from who you know? And that is how they're all complicit in the crime. And the other thing is they don't want people to get ahead of them to then be able to point out how they got there.
Yeah.
The hard-working millionaire, middle-class millionaire in Australia, the US, Europe, they're the ones that are going to be eroded. That's where so all these guys saying tax the millionaires, it's don't tax us, tax all the middle class millionaire below us, because we don't want them to overtrot us.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got about 8 minutes to go or so. So we'll move through these quickly, because I also do want to get to that US point you mentioned before, because that was another one I was actually interested to hear your take on. But pretty much the third point for the Davos week that came out of it is the new buzzword from the World Economic Forum is polycrisis, which means the simultaneous occurrence of catastrophic events. So out of that, they're claiming that all crises going on across the world are linked to climate change. So can you share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, it's really funny that this word started to pop up the end of last year. There was reporting of we're in a polycrisis. So every time these leftist idiots roll out that global warming is going to destroy us in 7 years, and it never happens. The global famine is going to destroy the whole world in 5 years, and it never happens. I forget how many it is, but if you map it since like the 70s, when this sort of really started to get going, this crisis scene, it's something like 80 events have all been so catastrophic that within 7 to 10 years, the planet's gone. Well, we're 50 years on and the planet's still here. So everything is it. Now, so what they've now done is they've gone, these are all micro crises. They're not enough on their individual being to destroy the planet or to destroy mankind. So now we're going to have this polycrisis. So the new enemy of the world is polycrisis. Simultaneous crisis is happening all over the world at once. You know, there's a famine here, a flood here, so they're both linked. Or there's a shortage here and an oversupply here, but it's all linked. So what's the middle? What's the little bit in the middle that links it all? So they picked climate change, which is the one thing since the 70s that they've all been trying to hammer home. And a lot of these people from these things have made all their money out of solutions to climate change, right? So now they're going for the big one, the polycrisis. Every single event, the war in Ukraine, the upheaval in politics, the meltdown in our schools, something I saw, the thing was one of the shootings in America. That's because of the polycrisis, right? The energy, the transition to renewables is because of the polycrisis. Yeah, everything's because of the polycrisis. But what's at the center of the polycrisis is this climate change thing. So watch them really roll this out, because everything now, the solution will be you have to stop cows farting, because that's going to stop a small portion of the polycrisis. But if we did all this stuff, you know, drive to renewables, you eat bugs, you know, you get rid of consumerism, you restructure the economic economy, you have a one world government, it'll solve the polycrisis. Rather than trying to solve each individual thing individually, now they'll go, we need to do these 30 things to solve the polycrisis.
So really all it is just an excuse to push their agenda and get people to believe it.
100%. 100%. And all the gullible idiots out there will believe it in droves. Droves.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. And they'll explain it convincingly, I'm sure, and people will buy it straight away, as we saw from the whole last 3 years or so. So we'll go to the last point now of Davos week, and then if we have enough time, we'll go through the last question about what's happening in the US. So
I'll make this.
Pretty much, the last point of which came out of Davos week, I personally find this not surprising at all, as I'm sure you do as well, Stephen. So the World Economic Forum, the people there were boasting at this year's forum that Moderna were actually working on a COVID vaccine before COVID was even declared. So what does this tell you? Does this pretty much tell you that all the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists out there were correct about the whole thing being man-made?
100%. The problem I've got is, as someone who doesn't believe in the bullshit, is all my conspiracy theories come true, so I need new ones. If you have a look at everything around, and this goes back to the point is that these guys always tell you what they've done or what they're doing. We saw it with the 2020 election with Trump. Facebook come out, or Facebook, Reuters, Bloomberg, AP, a whole heap of them got together and put out that whole manifesto on how we stole the election, how we saved the election. When you actually read that, that's criminal activity. Against, under the US Constitution, what they did, if it proved to be true that they actually did it, that was criminal activity. No doubt about it. So they tell you up front. All Moderna here is doing the exact same thing. Yep, we were working on this vaccine. Yep, we were doing it. They were working on it in 2018 and 2019. They they had it ready for production in early 2020 before all the shit really happened. And so if Moderna's done it, Pfizer's done it, Johnson & Johnson, all of them, that's how they were able to get this thing to market, because they actually knew it was coming, or knew something was coming, and they knew what the guidelines were. That's just, I really put that point in there. I wanted to bring that point up is because what I really wanted to drive home is these guys always tell you what is coming.